This video is going to focus on the setup rounds for brioche in the round using magic loop. I've cast on 20 stitches total and divided it evenly, so they've got 10 stitches on my front needle and 10 stitches on my back needle. And we're going to work the setup round first by working our basic slip one yarn over, or pardon me, knit one followed by a slip one yarn over. So we're going to knit one, bring the working yarn to the front, slip one yarn over, knit one, and we're going to work this to the end of the round. And then when we get to the end of the round, we're going to look at what the common mistake is when moving our needles in magic loop. That often results in either extra stitches or not enough stitches. So here we are at the last knit one. We're going to bring the working yarn to the front and work a slip one yarn over. And what typically happens is this working yarn gets brought between the needles to work the first stitch on the next needle. What actually needs to happen is this working yarn needs to stay on the front side of the needle and brought over this needle when we work the first stitch on the next needle. So bear with me here, this gets a little sloppy. We're going to turn our work. I shouldn't even say turn our work. We're going to simply move the needles around so that we can start the first stitch on the next needle, which is going to be a knit one. We're going to pull our working yarn or needle forward and put it into the stitch to knit it. But while we do that, we have to make sure that we bring this working yarn over this cable and knit that first stitch. By doing that, we've created the yarn over, or the slip one yarn over on that previous needle, and now we can continue in pattern across this back needle. So we're going to slip one purlwise. Oh, come on, focus. There we go. Knit one, slip one. I love these autofocus cameras because they're nice and slow, but boy, oh boy, do they make it tricky to knit because it tries to focus on everything all at once. Okay, here we go. Slip one yarn over. We're back to the last knit one. We're going to bring our working yarn forward to work this last slip one yarn over. And much like what we did before, we have to make sure that whatever we do, we bring this working yarn over this back needle. So as I turn our work here, we have to consider the fact that when we're working our second round of brioche purl in the round, it needs to be a slip one yarn over as the first stitch. So we'll pull this working needle forward, get these needles, there we go. So we've got a single stitch as the first stitch on our needle, so it needs to be a slip one yarn over. But we have to make sure we bring this working yarn over that back cable so that we've created a wrapped stitch as the last stitch. Oh, there we go, let's focus. Created the wrapped stitch as the last stitch on the needle. But then we want to bring the working yarn between our needles so that we can create that first stitch as a slip one yarn over. So now it's between the needle and the cable, and now we're going to work that slip stitch with the yarn in front and bring the working yarn all the way over to brioche purl the next stitch. I'll try and show you that one more time when we get to the end of this first needle. So slip one, brioche purl, slip one, brioche purl. All we really want to make sure is that when we have a stitch that needs to be wrapped, that it is, and a stitch that doesn't need to be wrapped, that it isn't. So we finish with a brioche purl, which means that the next stitch needs to be a slip one yarn over. However, that stitch that needs to be a slip one yarn over is actually on the next needle. So we're going to turn our work, pull our needles through, get everything into position, and now we have to have the working yarn under both needles, or how best to say it, yeah, under the first needle. We don't want it brought between the stitches. So we just want it under the needle and the cable, slip that first stitch, then wrap the working yarn around to brioche purl the next stitch. Slip one, brioche purl the next stitch. So it's a lot easier finishing a brioche purl round because you don't have to worry about having that last stitch wrapped when you begin the next round. It's really at the beginning of the brioche purl rounds that you have to make sure that the yarn is in the right position, and the end of the brioche knit rounds that you have to make sure that the yarn is in position. So I hope that helps. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments and we'll make sure you get this sorted out.